In 1824, the Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice John Marshall, tried an influential case that established the relationship between the federal government and the state governments in regulating interstate commerce. This case was called Gibbons versus Ogden and was argued by two steamboat operators. The first was Thomas Gibbons, who was licensed by the US Congress to operate a passenger ship between New Jersey and New York. And the second was Aaron Ogden, who was licensed by the New York State Legislature to also operate a steamboat between New Jersey and New York.
Hello, I would like to purchase a US steamboat license to operate my boat around here. I really love these waters.
On what premise, sir? Are you a fisher?
No, I do it for business. I carry passengers between New York and New Jersey.
Alright, sir, you'll just have to sign these papers. There are about 50 signatures in here. Alright, here's a license.
Passengers, how do you like my steamboat service?
Hey, Thomas, what do you think you're doing on my water?
What do you mean, Aaron? I'm doing business. I'm carrying passengers from New Jersey to New York.
You can't operate on these waters.
Actually, I can. And you want to know why? Because I have a license from the US flippin' Congress, boy.
But I have a license from the New York State Legislature. Where are we right now?
New York?
Exactly, you can't operate your steamboat in New York. Only I have the license to do that. Get out!
Well, you can't stop me.
Yes, I can, and we will take it to court.
Thomas Gibbons, you must stop operating your steamboat in New York. Only Aaron Ogden has that right, according to the license from New York State Legislature.
And what if I don't stop operating?
Then you will receive the consequences of the court.
Wait, this isn't fair. I had a US license. This isn't over, Aaron. We're taking this to the Supreme Court.
In 1824, Aaron Ogden and Thomas Gibbons show up at the Supreme Court. The ensuing court case would become one of the most influential court cases of American history.
Thomas Gibbons must be restrained from operating steamboat with only a federal license. Carrying passengers does not count as commerce, which means trade. So the federal government does not have the right to let Thomas Gibbons sail in New York waters, where I run my ferry.
But the US Congress, as stated by the Constitution, has the right to regulate commerce, and nowhere in the Constitution does it say that commerce solely means trade.
A major argument in Gibbons versus Ogden was how the Constitution should be interpreted. With a broad interpretation, it could be said that commerce, as stated in the Constitution, includes the carrying of passengers. The main argument, however, was over whether states should have the right to regulate commerce, regardless of what commerce means.
After 1 month of intense and serious debate, the court has decided to rule in favor of
Gibbons, 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 Gibbons.
Ogden.
Thomas Gibbons.
Whoa! That's not fair. I have the right to operate my steamboat.
But you were licensed by a state government which, as the Constitution says, does not have the right to regulate interstate commerce. The judicial system will not, as you request, nullify the license of Thomas Gibbons. Instead, we grant him full permission to operate steamboats in the United States, not only in New York.
That's right, boy.
Where does it say that only the federal government has the right to regulate interstate commerce?
Here, in this court. we decided that Congress's power to regulate commerce is exclusive and thus only reserved for the federal government.
The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution justified the court's ruling. The Supremacy Clause basically says that in conflicts between the federal government and state governments, federal laws apply and must take precedence over state laws.
In addition, we have decided that commerce includes navigation.
What?
This means that the U.S. Congress can regulate trade and navigation among the states.
Since Gibbons was crossing the New York-New Jersey border, his operation counts as interstate commerce, and his license is valid. However, you, Aaron Ogden, were licensed by the New York State Legislature to operate a steamboat between New York and New Jersey. Since you were allowed to cross the border as well, your operation also falls into the realm of interstate commerce. And since New York cannot regulate it, your license is invalid.
But I didn't cross the border, that's intrastate commerce.
The U.S. Congress can't control interstate commerce. So, you're right about that, but the waterway you are licensed to operate on crosses the state border. Therefore, it still is a question of interstate commerce. You cannot hog the waterway all for yourself. It's unfair for everyone else.
Yeah, Aaron, sharing is caring.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ogden.
Thus, the case ended.
So what's the point of all this?
Well, Gibbons versus Ogden was instrumental in defining the relationship between the federal government and state governments, not only in regulating commerce. In addition, the ambiguity of the Commerce Clause was resolved, and this made future conflicts of a similar nature easier to avoid and solve. During this period, the US Congress wanted to build roads and canals and had to start by passing the General Survey Act, which would map out the location of the proposed routes. However, due to interstate conflicts over these proposed routes, many states, especially southern ones that were concerned about how the bill would affect the slave trade, did not support the bill. The decision of Gibbons versus Ogden made the passing of the General Survey Act easier because it was established that the federal government, not the state governments, actually had the authority to regulate commerce. And this fueled the rapid construction of roads and canals, which boosted the economy and facilitated transportation for the future prosperity of the United States.